Hi, my name is Mary Tomlin. You can just call me Mrs. T, and you are?
Hi, I'm Gabby.
And Gabby and I today are going to show you how to make a pie. And we're going to show you how to make one with a pie tin like this. And we're also going to show you how to make a pie with a mason jar lid. Can you tip it a little so they can see it? Because maybe you don't have a pie tin at home and maybe you just want a small pie. So we're going to do a couple stages. With the pie dough, we'll show you how to make this in a little bit, but we have had this chilling in the refrigerator for 2 or 3 hours, and pie dough, to work well, we learned the other day, right? It needs to be chilled. So we just got it out of the fridge, and I'm going to take a little flour on my hands, and I'm going to cut it with a knife because we're going to make a top crust and a bottom crust of a pie. So I'm going to shape it into a ball, and Gabby over here has a nicely floured area, not too much flour, right? You might want to, yep. You're going to flour your rolling pin and you're going to roll it out. And when you roll pie dough, you want to make sure that you roll it from the center out in the form of a circle. We'll see how Gabby does, and if she doesn't, if it's hard for her, yep, she presses it down in the middle. You okay?
Yeah.
And then she puts a little more flour on. Ooh, the little muscles, huh? And then she's gonna press it the other way. So she's kind of like pressing it and then turning it and pressing it. And at this point, good, she's gonna flip it over. And start from the center and kind of roll it out a little bit. Okay, can I borrow it for a second? So at this point, she's got it like this. She's gonna flip it over again and she's gonna roll from the center. You don't want to put too much flour, right? Just enough. Roll from the center out so she can get a circle and not an oblong, okay? All right, so we'll see what she can do. I'm sure she can manage that. And what, in the meantime, these are just mason jar lids, pretty simple. And I've lined a pan with parchment paper. That's pretty important to have the parchment paper because you don't want it to get stuck all over your pan. Looking good, Gabby, looking good. Let me take one little look at it. We want to have it be about 1/4 of an inch thin. Now, this is going to be our pie tin, right? So we're going to put this down and let's just cut about 1/2 inch around the circle. We want to make a little bit of a crust onto the pie. So we're going to cut that out. And you want to do that to this one and maybe do 1/2 inch? Cooking's all about measuring, you know. And you know, the thing is, cooking's like an experiment too. If it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, you don't get stressed out. You just try to regroup and then, you know, try it again. Oh, you're doing a great job. We're going to make a lattice pie. You could make a 2-crust pie or you could make a lattice pie. But it's summer, so we're going to make the lattice pie. And what we're going to do, can you see okay? We're going to take this part here. I'll do one and Gabby will do one. And then we're going to put it in here like this. And then we're going to press it down like that. Gabby's doing hers. Here's her pie tin. Oh, she's got her pie tin. And we have a little bit of edge over it. Yep, perfect. You don't want to press it too much, just enough. And then we're going to put some pie filling in it. Now, we're just going to do cherry. You could put strawberry jam. It's summertime. You could put strawberry jam in there and a couple fresh strawberries. Or you could use a pie filling of any kind. We'll do cherry. Do you want to do cherry too? Okay. And it looks like that. At this point, we could do a couple things. We could cover it for a 2-crust pie, or we could make a lattice pie. While she's filling that out, I'm going to take the loose pieces that were here from cutting our circles. I'll put a little more flour down. A little bit more, Gabby. Don't want so much that it's going to fall over, but you want enough that it's good. I think that looks good. So we're going to take our pie and we're going to re-roll it out a little bit, and so that we get it not too thick, but okay. This time it doesn't have to be a perfect circle because we're gonna make a lattice pie. A lattice pie is strips. Strips that are put lengthwise and then strips that are put horizontal. What do you call that? Vertical and horizontal. You can have a handy dandy thing like this, or you can just use a knife. But you just take it and you cut the strip and it comes off like that. Do you want to do some, Gabby? And then you put the fancy strip like this on top of your pie. Maybe 3 vertical and 3 horizontal. Gabby and I will work on each of our pies doing that. That's okay if it breaks, because then you have enough for another one. Yeah, perfect. You put yours in the center, didn't you? I'm gonna make one. I think you probably could. This makes a pretty long stretch, so maybe I can get 2 out. Excuse us while we do our lattice. We'll be sure to show you what it looks like when we get it done. We won't leave you hanging. So far, I have my vertical stripes on that look like that. Now I need to do the horizontal. It's looking good, Gabby. Leave a little gap in there so that people can see the cherry. I think that looks nice. And maybe I can piece these together. I'm only going to put 2 across in the horizontal way. You're doing great. So there it is, but I'm not done with it. It doesn't really look great. I need to finish it off a little bit. So usually what I do is cut around the edges. So I'm gonna take my knife and I'm just gonna trim it around the edges to get any loose pie dough off. That looks great, Gabby. Do you remember what we put on the top of it, Gabby, before we bake it?
We put on
a little something sweet.
Powdered sugar?
No, we'll use regular. Yeah, we'll use, but sugar. You are definitely right. So there's my lattice pie. And I'm going to take and I'm going to sprinkle a little sugar, not a lot, because, you know, that would brown up a little bit. Just going to take and I'm just going to sprinkle a little sugar on the top. Again, you could use strawberry jam, maybe 2-3 tablespoons, and then put some fresh strawberries. And then I'm going to put it on my baking sheet. And we'll get Gabby's done. You want a little sugar for your pie?
Yes, please.
You're going to take these home. Gabby's got a brother at home. Pretty sure he's going to like this pie. Last week you made a different kind of pie. Do you want to tell him what you made at my house that was different than this?
We made a chocolate pie. And yeah, we made a chocolate pie which had chocolate fudge on the bottom.
My secret recipe.
And then what was it in the middle? It was
of chocolate instant pudding. I think that's good.
Yeah, instant pudding in the middle of it, and then
I think we did pudding in a little Cool Whip for the top.
Cool Whip for the top, yeah. And so
the only thing that was different for a pudding pie or a quiche is you have to bake the crust first. So that's a little bit different than this. This pie is ready to go in the oven, okay? We're going to put that in the oven and we're gonna show you how to make a bigger pie, right? And what kind of pie will we be making today?
We will be making a...
What did you cut up over here?
Oh, peach pie, sorry.
A peach pie. So we pre-did this so that we would be ready. We actually used frozen peaches, but we put a few fresh peaches in there too. We peeled them first and we put them in. And for this, we used sugar. We used tapioca. Tapioca, you said, looks like snowflakes, right? The tapioca, we used 1/4 cup of that. That actually soaks up the moisture of the peaches. We put a little bit of lemon juice, and I'll make sure y'all have the recipe in there. We put the tapioca. You mix the tapioca with sugar and cinnamon, right? And you stirred it into there. So what we're gonna do is we're going to make a bigger pie tin. In case you have one of those at home, we'll just put our scraps over here. Yep, put a little more down. Yep. And we're gonna use the other half of this. So we're gonna get it into a ball. It sat out a little bit. It really has to be chilled to have it work well. You can keep pie dough in the freezer for a good 3 weeks. So that's good, or you can keep it for a week. So hopefully we'll get it on our first roll. Sometimes that works, sometimes not, right? Why don't you pick a pie tin that you wanna use, Gabby, while I'm rolling it out? You decide which one you wanna use. Do you wanna use, oh, you wanna use the glass one. Very good. So I was pretty lucky. When I was a kid, I was in 4-H. Maybe some of you were in 4-H. And I had a 4-H leader, Mrs. Dorothy Long. And it was pretty exciting. I was part of the Britain-Macon 4-H club, and I loved 4-H. And every year we would make something. We surely didn't start out with a pie, but you'd make something for the fair. Now I'm rolling that pretty thin, and then hopefully it'll go over the edge. I don't know if it will or not. We might have to use a little of this with it. We'll press it down and maybe see if we can put the two of them together a little bit. Scrap. Sometimes it sticks like this. What do we have to do when it sticks like that?
We need to flour it.
We gotta flour it. See, she's an expert. She's made pie once. Did you want to tell them what you can do with a quiche? You take a baked dough and what's quiche?
Quiche is mainly egg, and it's kind of like a pie mainly made out of egg and
cheese, I think, right?
Yeah, and with cheese, and cheese. And
I'm feeling a little pressure because this may or may not come up right, but you can roll it right on the rolling pin. Oh, see, it's breaking apart. So that's okay. We're gonna re-roll it. We're gonna put more flour down. And it might be that it's too warm, or it might be that it just needs it. Now, you shouldn't make this like Play-Doh. Everybody loves Play-Doh. You shouldn't roll it up but more than once. But that happens. I'm sort of glad it happened, because then you can see what's not a big deal. We don't get too stressed out. We're just gonna re-roll. We're gonna flip it. Do you want to get a little more flour in a measuring cup? Yeah, just in case we need it. And the important thing is get it into a circle. Put a little flour down there. Right there, good. You don't want to put it too heavy with flour. You just got to have enough. Hopefully they can see. I don't know if I'm nervous because I'm on camera or what, but it happens, you know, sometimes that it doesn't come out. My grandma made pies. Does your mom make pies?
sometimes.
Sometimes? What kind of pies do you like to make at home?
Apple pie.
Apple pie. Mm-hmm. That's a good fall favorite, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now, oh, look at, bingo. I put it right into the thing. Now I'm gonna try not to get so much flour on my pie tin. We might have to piece it a little bit. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna press it down, and we're gonna take our knife and we're gonna cut a little chunk off the edge, and we're gonna piece it in here. Sometimes to piece it, you might need a little water. Now, if you were gonna make a pudding pie or a quiche like Gabby was just referring to, you would put it into the oven here in a little bit. And what do you have to do before you put it into the oven, Gabby? Do you remember? That's a hard one. It's been all last week. I can't put it into the oven like this. What would happen?
Well, it would explode.
It would explode. So if you're making a pudding pie or a quiche, no, not a quiche, a pudding pie, you would have to poke it with a fork like this so that the air bubbles wouldn't come out. We're not making that kind of pie. We're gonna put peaches in there, and then that's gonna hold it down, I guess. So at this point, we're gonna turn our edges under. Do you remember how to do that? Do you wanna try that a little bit? Fold your edges under, and we're gonna make a little edge to our pie. Now you can do a lot of different things. You can put fork, or you can, it's called fluting it. I don't know where that name came from. Okay, so if we're gonna do a fork, all we gotta do is go like this. I just don't think that looks that great. I mean, it's cool, it works. So we're gonna try to flute it. You make sure your fingers are, yeah. And notice how she has her hair back all nice. What a good cook. So we take our thumb, or we take our forefinger, and we take our thumb and forefinger and we pinch it. Pinch it. Pinch it. You try. This way. Thumb and forefinger pinch. Thumb and forefinger pinch. You try. Yeah. Cool. All right, I'll finish it off. I got bigger fingers and we want to make sure it goes all the way around. But you get how to do it, right? Or you can, if that's stressful for you, just put a fork around it. But we want to make our pie look as pretty as we can. Now, should we make a lattice pie on this one? I think we should, because it's summer. Some people like a whole big crust on top of their pie, but we're just going to put a lattice because we like it. So, like I said, she already made the peach mixture up. Thank you very much. Oh, look there. It's looking pretty lovely. So now what we have to do is we have to put our peach mixture with the tapioca, a little bit of cornstarch in there too, cinnamon and sugar. And we're going to put it in our pie shell. Try not to get a lot of that liquid. Sometimes the fruit kind of settles and you get a lot of liquid. And we don't really want a runny pie. I think I'm going to wash my hands and get a scoop. My hands are sticky. We also washed our hands before we started cooking, didn't we? Absolutely. Yep. So we're going to scoop. Do you see how that's a little liquidy? We don't want to use that. So I usually try to fill the pie crust up fairly well because it will shrink when it cooks because the peaches will cook down. And you don't want it to look like a skimpy pie. Do you know what skimpy means, Gabby?
Kind of where it's too thin.
Yeah, it's too small. It looks like we were chintzy and we didn't fill it all the way up. That's what it looks like. So we don't want to be chintzy. Ta-da! All right, so we'll leave that up there so you can look at that. And then we have to shape out more dough. Don't worry, we're gonna show you how to make the dough. Okay, do you wanna get some more on your rolling pin? And I'm out of the magic, I have one in the freezer. So I'm gonna get that out. This one's really good and cold, maybe too cold. So I'm gonna cut it in half because I shouldn't need all of it. Okay, cut it out. Oh, it's kind of cold, isn't it? So I can kind of warm it up a little bit with my hands. I don't want to warm it up too much. What happens when it's too warm?
But when it's too warm, it doesn't mold right.
Yeah, it just breaks every time you go to roll it out, doesn't it? And we don't want that. So if you don't have that fancy thing, I got that at Martin's Home Center. I don't know if you've ever been to Martin's Home Center. That's where I got that. But you can just use a knife if you want to. I think I'm going to have some muscles. You want to try to press down on it? Let's see if you got some muscles. You've been working out? Ooh, it's tough. All right, let me try. Woo! It's breaking apart already, so I'm going to try to get it. We're just making a lattice, so hopefully we can get it together enough that we can get our lattice pie made. Pie dough can be pretty forgiving. You can cut and paste it together a little bit with a little water. Pie dough is super good. Pie dough is very high in calories, however, so it's probably not something you want to eat every day. You'll see why in a few minutes when we start to cook, right? So we want it, how thin do you think we want it? Do we want it?
1/4 of an inch.
1/4 of an inch, okay. So I kind of got to guess. Do you measure in school, Gabby? What grade are you?
I'm going into 7th grade.
7th grade. Are you looking forward to going to Tecumseh Middle School?
Yeah,
Good.
I enjoy school.
What's your favorite subject?
English class.
English class. So when I was in school, they had a class where you got to cook. It was called home ec.
We had that for a little bit.
Did you have that for a little bit? So that's where I learned. Maybe your mom learned that way too. I don't know. Sometimes people learn pies from relatives or their grandma or something like that. This is what's nice about DMP is they're putting this on so that you guys will know how to make something. Okay, it's breaking apart a little bit, but we're going to try to get our lattice out. We're going to cut our strips. And that one's kind of bad. And we're going to try to get some strips made. And we're going to try to get it to go on our pie in a vertical and a horizontal fashion. I can speak. See how we do. That one was crooked. Did you see that? I was driving the lattice work crooked. Okay. We'll take our pie over here. Some pieces are long, which will be great. This is a nice long one, right? Oh, I just broke it. And I'm going to try to stretch it out and put it over the pie. Sometimes you have to piece them together. So like that isn't going to go all the way across, is it? I'm sorry that I'm doing this part. I just felt like that dough was kind of, I should have left it out a little bit. Maybe if we weren't on the TV, we would have had it out, but we weren't. So looks like we're going to have to roll another batch, isn't it? We're not going to have enough for this. Look at, that's going to be a umpteen piece. Actually, this cuts the calories a little bit not having a whole top crust. But, you know, if you're going to eat pie, you know. Do you like pie with ice cream or do you like pie with Cool Whip?
I like it with both. Both
You do?
Both have.
What's your favorite? What would you serve this peach pie with?
Ooh. Well, it depends about the kind of ice cream that we would have if I was serving it.
Well, what kind of ice cream do you think would be good with a peach pie?
Well, vanilla.
Yeah.
Maybe peach.
I think so. Nice big scoop of it. Now, you know, some people do, you said you like to make apple pie. Some people would serve apple pie with ice cream and a piece of cheese. Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't heard of it with a piece
I know, isn't
of
that crazy?
cheese,
Some people like it like that. I don't know why. I don't like it like that myself. I say just eat the sugar. All right, so I'm going to roll it out again, and then hopefully it'll roll better this time, and then you can cut some and put them in the horizontal way, okay? It's so soft. Wait till you see what goes in the pie dough, and you'll see why we're having a little stress cutting it, because it's pretty rich. All right, I think we did it. So remember to put a little flour on it and then cut as many as you can. Have at it. While she's doing that, I'm going to put this pie dough back in the fridge because we can keep that again. And we can, as long as we keep it refrigerated, we're good. And maybe when we're off the TV, Gabby will make another little pie so she can take it home. That mason jar thing works out great for little pies or individual pies. Okay. Now I already lined, you don't have to line a cookie sheet with parchment paper, but if it boils over, you want it on the pan and not your oven because your mom's not going to be too happy. What does Mrs. Tomlin say about when you're in the kitchen? What do you got to remember to do? You got to remember to clean up.
So you don't have to clean it all up
at the end. Clean up as you go because nobody likes a mess, right? Can you get a few more out? Can you make that for a few more? Thank you. We'll cross over you. Good thing we get along. Sometimes kitchens, you want to try to make one over the top of it? Go ahead. Well, look at that one. Oh my goodness, it's like a big long snake. Yowza. Let's do that. And we need one that's going to connect those two. Yeah. Can you do that? All right. And I'm going to get out the stuff while Gabby's showing you that. You can talk to the camera, Gabby, and I'm going to get out the stuff that we need to make. Okay, so thank you, Gabby, for getting all the lettuce on there. And if you remember, we have to kind of cut around the edges, right? So we really only have a couple overhangs on this pie. So I think when you have it like this too, you kind of gotta flute the edges. You know how we fluted? So we're gonna, this is a lot bigger than that little mason pie, isn't it? That little mason jar lid. So I'm gonna put a little on my fingers, and I'm gonna try to connect the lattice with a flute. Or you could use the fork, remember? Now, what do we like to put over the pie before we bake it, Miss Gabby?
Well,
A little
bit of sugar.
Okay, well, I'll hold it and you sprinkle a little sugar on. You ever seen Mary Poppins? Ooh, there's a lot of sugar. Just okay, just sprinkle it on. You ever see the movie Mary Poppins?
Yeah,
There's a song that says, there's a spoonful of sugar.
Teaspoonful. Oh yeah, a spoonful of sugar.
Makes the medicine go down.
Yeah.
Yep. Medicine go down, the medicine go down. I love that. Okay.
Oh wow.
You did good. I'm going to sprinkle just a smidgen more on the spots that you weren't able to get. Now, a good chef knows that this crust part is going to get done before the inside of the pie. And that could get really dark and brown. We didn't do this the other day when you were at my house learning how to make a pie. But today, since we're on camera, we're going to do it right. Okay? So we're going to take a piece of foil. And we're going to cut it into about an inch long strip. My grandma used to use wet cloths. I don't know how to do that. I wasn't paying a good enough attention, so I don't know. I don't remember how to do that. We're going to put the shiny side in, and we're going to try not to destroy our flute, but we're going to kind of slowly put this around the edges. We can remove it at the last part of baking, putting the shiny side down. Did you know that when you iron, if you put the shiny side up underneath your ironing cover, you only have to iron one side because the heat reflects up? Did you know that?
I didn't realize that.
You learned how to iron the other day when you came to my house, right? Yeah, that was fun. All right, so do you see how I did that? I just kind of caved it in a little. Now we're going to put it on the baking pan. Why are we putting it on the pan?
Because if
we don't want it to, we don't want it getting all over.
Wow.
Yeah, it'll go over. Where is our other, we already put it in the oven. So you want to open the oven for me? Be careful not to burn. I have the oven at 400. Okay, go ahead, all the way up. Now I'm going to set a timer so we don't forget those little pies. I don't know. I think they usually are like 8 minutes or something like that, and then you check them again. Are we ready to make pie crust and show the audience how to make pie crust? Okay. So to make pie crust, the very first thing you have to do is measure your flour. And Gabby's going to show you the right way to measure. Would you please show the audience the right way to measure?
So you take a spoon and put it in here, and then you do that until it's a little over.
Perfect.
And then you take a knife
and do it over there so we don't get flour that we have to clean up. Cut, yep.
And then
yep. And then you're going to put that in here. And we need 2 cups. Now, that's really good, Gabby. We don't want to cut it. We don't want to pack it down so much. So that's why you're measuring it right. This is Crisco. This is frozen Crisco. I froze it so it would be cold. And remember, I was explaining that things have to be cold. I'm just going to cut some chunks. I'm going to throw it in here. She's putting 2 cups in there. I'm going to put a pinch of salt. A pinch of salt is like this. I'll write down on the recipe what it is. And then we're going to cut the butter. Do you want to do that while I get the cold water? I have water getting cold. If you don't have cold water in your fridge, you can put ice cube in water. So we put in a half a cup of Crisco, and we're putting in Yeah, I better look at the recipe. Half a cup of vegetable shortening and a half a cup of butter, not margarine, butter. So can you cut them into chunks? Okay, do that and I'll get the cold water. Now, if you don't have a food processor, you can do this by hand. I didn't get it out, but they have these little pastry blenders that you can kind of mix it with. Sweet. We're going to put the butter in there. We got the pinch of salt in there, right? We have to put some strange ingredient in there. Do you remember where our tablespoon went? Oh, here. Do you remember what kind of strange ingredient that goes in there that you'd think, this doesn't go in a pie crust? Do you remember what it is?
Vinegar, yeah.
I don't know why. Don't ask me why. I don't know why. But we're making my grandma's recipe. And then it said 1/3 cup of water, which you measure with this kind of cup, right? Not the other cup. And then you put it at eye level. Is it 1/3 cup? Okay. We don't put all of it in because we might not need it all. I don't know. Sometimes the weather affects it. Now we got to put the lid on. I don't know where the top to my thing is, so I'm going to put my hand over it, okay? We do it till it starts clinging out the edges of the food processor. And we'll put a little flour down here because sometimes it takes 2.5 cups, sometimes it takes 2 cups. I don't know what to tell you. You just kind of got to look at it. And you got to be careful of that blade, right? You don't want to be touching that blade. You also made cinnamon rolls with me and you had to knead the dough, but you don't do that for pie dough, do you? No. And then I put it on a flour surface, and I put flour on my hands, and then I get it all in a ball, and then I can put this in the refrigerator, or I can put it in the freezer. So, anything else that you think we should tell the audience about pie making? I don't know, I think we covered everything. If they're going to have to chill it first. And then if they're making a individual pie crust, they're poking the bottom first and baking it for like 8 or 10 minutes. So I know that our pies aren't going to be done, but maybe our little pies will be enough that the audience can kind of see. The dough should be kind of what, golden brown, I think, when it's done. So let's see if I can use a pot holder and get it out so that we can kind of show them what it's going to look like when it's done. We didn't pre-make a pie for our audience. Oh, well, what do you think? It's getting there, isn't it? Don't touch the pan. There. It's looking pretty good. We're going to leave it in just a few more minutes, right? Until it's all the way done. And the really nice thing, I guess we should say this, the really nice thing about using this, and if you want, you can make another pie with this, okay, and use leftover peaches. When you're done and it's baking, you just take it off with a spatula and poke that up. And then out comes your pie. So that's pretty simple.
I also made another pie, and we had to put slits in it because if we didn't, in the oven, it would explode.
So you did,
I know,
sorry to interrupt, I noticed you did a fork around the edge of yours, and you did what is called a 2-crust pie. I see something missing on here.
Oh, sugar.
Yes. You need a little spoon. Oh, here's one. Sprinkle it over, and you can do that. Now these are the pies that Gabby made earlier, and they are made with the mason jar lids, and they are the lattice pies. They're beautiful. We probably could have rolled our dough a little thinner, right? But it looks pretty good, and this one looks pretty darn good too to bake. So I'll put that in the oven right now along with that beautiful peach pie that we got going on there. So when you go to serve these, it's pretty hot. It just came out of the oven, so pardon me. You just push the bottom up after it's cooled, not now. and it comes right out, and it makes that beautiful little pie. And you could serve this with Cool Whip or ice cream. Which one?
That's a hard question.
I don't know.
It kind of depends on your own individual taste.
What would you serve? You said ice cream with a
I'd
peach.
say-
What would you put with this?
Also ice cream.
Okay.
Because ice cream is really good, and I think vanilla ice cream would go really good with that.
And it's summertime.
Mm.
So thanks again for coming to our kitchen, and I want to thank Gabby for being just such a great assistant, and I want to thank DMP. It was super fun. Bye.
Bye.